Nowadays students are much interested in video editing, UI UX design and graphic designing, right? So this is the main motto of graphic cave to come up with a series called GC lecture series. We successfully completed 3 sessions. Now it's time for day 4. So today you'll be learning about graphic designing. Today with us we have most smart, cool and talented young Mr. Ayush sir, Ayush Arora sir. So let me tell you a small intro about him. He is a visual designer, video editor, and UI designer also. He completed his graduation in 2019 from Shivnadar University. So, sir, let's start the session. The session is over to you.
Great. You guys are engineering students and wanting to kind of get to know about um, graphic designing or video editing, stuff like that. So myself coming from an engineering background, I think this is going to be a fun session where I kind of because for a person like me who kind of taught himself everything, maybe there is something that I can tell you guys on how to maybe build a career in this particular field, how to go about it, and how you can uh, kind of bring your engineering knowledge or engineering background to this particular field, which kind of comes in very handy, which I have realized over the small few years that I have worked with in this field. So. Um, for this particular session, broadly, what I'll be talking about is I'll kind of give you a broad overview as to what the field is, what to expect in the industry, how things go, and what graphic design is, and maybe how you can probably bring your engineering background or the problem solving abilities to into your work culture and what all small other things that you may need to learn you can kind of learn so that you stand out from the crowd or level up or build your portfolio and things like that. So I haven't as such created a PowerPoint presentation deliberately because I don't want to walk you through a boring PPT. What I'll do is probably just have a conversation and then show you some stuff, file screen sharing, a few YouTube channels that you can start with, certain designing resource websites that I have found really helpful for me that have come in really handy. Um, Certain free, how you can even leverage the new AI tools that are upcoming these days, and kind of then what are the other things that basically go into that particular field. So to start with, um, graphic design as such is basically what? It's just a combination of um, text and images and icons, etc. And you kind of make stuff out of it. So it's as simple as that. Now, uh, from the perspective of you students who want to kind of get to learn about the field, it's important to have a basic understanding of a few basic principles of design to start with, which then eventually will help you in every design related field, be it as simple as graphic designing, be it brand strategy or brand design, be it say UI design or maybe even video editing, maybe product design. The fundamentals remain the same because in the end, you're designing for screens or you're designing something that get printed. It's as simple as that. So the basic principles or fundamentals remain the same. So it's all about so when we talk about graphic design, it's mostly sometimes people talk about the tools, what tools you use, or if you use say a tool like a Photoshop or an Illustrator, then automatically you are like in the minds of the people you are a skilled designer. But if you say use something like a Canva or maybe any online tool, or maybe nowadays Microsoft has one. So if you use that, then automatically what I've realized, people think that you are not as skilled as they might think. But it all comes down to your ability to create aesthetically appealing stuff and your ability to solve problems in your own way through creating certain designs. Maybe it is for mobile screens, website designs, apps, social media, branding, packaging, whatever it is. So just to give you, so I'll kind of now start showing you a few YouTube channels or maybe a few resources, and we can kind of walk through whatever comes up and go with the flow basically. So let me just start sharing my screen and uh, okay, so let me just share this whole screen and just let me know once it's visible. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. It's
Okay, so uh, there are a few. I mean, if you have to kind of, while pursuing your engineering degree, want to learn about designing, then the best resource is YouTube because there are a lot of free resources out there which you can use. And to start with, the most basic that I have realized is a page called Satori Graphics, where so I'll just open the page and then maybe we can see what the playlist is all about and what the person talks about. So if you just randomly, let's just have a look at what this page is all about. So it talks about logo designers, it talks about the logo design process, it talks about layout design, so which is a very important part. Um, it's one of the most fundamental aspects to it. Layout design will help you in social media design, in mobile apps, creating apps. So if you want to explore a field for product design, then, or if you want to become a UI designer, the or if you want to become a graphic designer, all these three or four career options will require you to study a bit about basic layout design, basic brand design, and things like that. So another thing is mastering colors and mastering typography. So the whole fundamental is, or the whole breakdown of creating something is that you need to question the why of it. Why are you choosing a particular? It can be as simple as why are you choosing this color for X particular creative, or why are you choosing this particular font for Y creative. So fonts and colors as such have a basic psychology attached to it, which people use, which brands use, and there are a lot of studies, a lot of online resources that you can find um, to get to know about that. And it's all about asking the why and figuring out who your target audience is. And so the broad idea is that you need to think like a problem solver. This is where I feel my engineering background has helped me to grasp these concepts better compared to even I would say that a lot of designers I have worked with, or a lot of freshers that I have worked with or interviewed, who have freshly come out of design schools, uh, kind of don't have that particular niche or that particular knowledge where they are able to solve for a particular problem or solve for their audience, whatever the brand is. Maybe it's a Nike, maybe it's a Coca-Cola, maybe it's a smaller brand. Um, People are in the end solving problems. And these days, because everything is online, that's where designing comes in handy. You need to like create stuff that helps you stand out from the crowd. So to start with, to understand the basics, this is a pretty nice page where you can learn small little things of basics of colors, designing, typography, layouting. There are, I mean, I think this page also has some free resources that you can go through, and it kind of goes in depth eventually. So to start with, I feel this is a pretty nice page to just browse and explore yourself. I think exploring is the best way to understand stuff. So I'll just give you, I'll help to give you a few starting points. So this is one page. Another page that I have found very helpful is called Dansky, which is, I think it's a tool focused page, which is, I think this page to mostly talks about Adobe Illustrator. So gives in-depth knowledge about Illustrator, but also some other generic tools or design knowledge. So it also has some After Effects tutorials if you want to go into video editing or just know about it. It has Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator tutorials. The best part about this page is that it's divided on the basis of tools. So I would say, like to get to know a basic understanding of what design is, the previous page, Satori Graphics, is a nice one where you get to learn about all the basic stuff. And then once you know that, and you need to get a hang of the tools that you are using. So these pages are really helpful. So what I have realized is that while learning on the job, the drawback is that the learning curve is pretty high. I mean, you're pretty slow to learn things because while a project comes, then you realize what you need to do. So to have a look at these tutorials and maybe figure out how to make a cool looking design that you have found on the internet, it really helps. So these are the few things that you can kind of start with. There is one more page. So I think these three should be, or you can take these as starting points. I mean, feel free to do your own research, obviously. But I feel this is the Pixim Perfect. Again, this is also a tool dependent page, but it kind of gives you very small hacks that can help you pay attention to detail, which again comes in handy. So basics, then the tool, and then attention to detail. I feel the three aspects of any design project or anything once you design. These three pages might help you to have a better understanding of the field and to grasp what you need to learn. So, I mean, this is basically how you can dive into the field or start learning about the tools or what design is as such. Other than that, what I feel is more important, what I have realized is that uh, being a simple graphic designer won't help you that much in the long run. You have to level up. And what mean when I say this is that um, like you need to think like a marketer, you need to think like a storyteller, or you need to kind of have that problem solving brain. You need to learn about design thinking. I got to know about design thinking way late in my career. I mean, I wish I would have started with that in college, because design thinking is one aspect where you actually solve for human problems through design, through your graphic designing, or through your um, through whatever you make basically. So why I'm focusing more on the problem solving aspect is because nowadays, or in today's age, a lot of AI tools are coming up which can help you create some basic stuff automatically by the click of a button. So where your additional input as a designer would come in, or things that would make you stand out, is your ability to generate new ideas, your ability to sell products or think like a marketer basically, because in the end, for whatever brand you work or for whatever company you work with, the revenue comes in from the from selling products or services. So you as a designer should play however small a part into that particular organization, um, helping them in a positive way for whatever project you work with. So that is why it's important to be a storyteller as such, or to like generate ideas or think of ad campaigns. Ideally, one should always start thinking campaign level stuff. So there are a few pages on Instagram called Mad Over Marketing, where I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It's a pretty popular page. I guess some of you might have. So those guys share uh, campaigns done by various brands, which can be a very good source of inspiration. So that is how I think you need to beginners, if they approach designing in such a way, it would be really, really beneficial for them in the longer run. So other than that, there are a lot of resources which kind of help you with designing stuff. Like once you, so there is this, I'll just open that particular website. There is this website called Design Resources, which what it has is, I mean, once I came through this particular website, I don't think I wanted to go anywhere else in terms of what I need or what I need to research for once I am into designing or once I am into a project. So just to give, if you want to generate online color palettes, this website has a list of or it's a repository of websites that gives you links to or redirects you to certain websites that helps you generate color palettes. So I mean, no need to rack your brains into manually doing certain stuff when you have such resources at your hand. So to learn about design systems, which is I think really important. So I feel learning about um, UI design and product design will help you greatly in whatever stuff you're designing. So design systems, what I mean is that, so every brand or every bigger brand has its own design system. So for example, you can see here Carbon design system is IBM's system. So what a design system is, it is like a collection of, say, collection of elements, or maybe say so for example, it will have a set of buttons, text fields, or a collection of logos, how to use that, So they have a particular set which once you use all of that, it will automatically make you realize that the visual will automatically relate to that it's an Adobe's design, it's an IBM's design, it's Apple's design or something like that. All of the best part is that all of these design systems are free to use. So Google's Material Design, Apple OS design is free to use. Um, the Fluent design by Microsoft is free to use. So just to learn about it and to take inspiration from these, I think this is a good way to do it. Um, I'll just open one and let's see what. So Adobe Design Principle. So it has its own set of learn about our principles. If I click on that, so it talks about design inclusivity, talks about international design, and so if you look at the right-hand part, you will just see a few references to their button design or to the icons. And if you go deeper, then you'll kind of get into the fundamentals of it. So if I look at the components part, if so navigation, avatar. So this is how they have built their design system. Like they have given particular size options. They have given guidelines for the image. They have given guidelines for how a disabled avatar would look. They have given values for size. They have given, um, I mean, if you look at their non-profile picture image, they're giving guidelines for everything basically. They have given guidelines for bottom navigation. They have given guidelines for, let's go to typography and see what they have. So they have separate guidelines for uh, so heading. They have font options for heading. They have different weights, light, default, heavy. These are the three weights that they use. They have size options. These are the only sizes or hierarchy that they use. So these are the things that once you start um, kind of learning about the basics of typography, layouting, and all, you'll kind of get a hang of it. And these resources are a good way to take inspiration from or use these resources as an example or for your own project. So if I go into say, let's go to illustrations. These are the few resources where you can get illustrations for free. Some of these might be paid, but if I open Undraw, let's say I have been using this for quite a while. So this has a particular look and feel attached to it. This particular website has a set of illustrations, which you, if you want to say you're doing a small project, you're designing a brochure, or maybe you're designing a UI, a few UI pages, you're designing an app, and you need to design screens for it. So based on the industry or um, based on what you want, if it's an illustration heavy project, then like this can be one of your websites that you refer to. So if I'm making let's say if I'm making a finance based app where I need 5 illustrations for finance, I can kind of search uh, for money related illustrations, graphs, dashboards, and things like that, which might come in handy for when I'm designing stuff. And you can download it in formats that are supported by Adobe Illustrator or supported by Adobe Photoshop. Um, I mean, this is one website that I mean, you can just go through it and explore and figure out your comfort websites that you are comfortable using. Like not all illustrations or all websites for these illustrations might be your go-to thing, but you can find out depending on the project what you want. So there are a few mockup tools here. Mockup is basically presentation of design in a better way. Let's just open one and see what happens. So if you look at so one another thing that I realized is that once you when you are say making a portfolio or when you are say presenting stuff to someone, it's always best to use mockups. For example, if you have designed a UI screen, then instead of just sending him an image of that screen, the best idea is to kind of use it in a mockup. I mean, use a laptop mockup like this. Use a laptop image, put your screen into that, and then present it so that people know how it will look in real life. So phone apps, tablets, this particular one has for devices. There are lots of other apps which also have a few mockups for outdoor stuff or maybe say newspapers or brochures or things like that. So uh, I mean, yeah, one can explore whatever they want. So there are so stock photos and typography is a thing that you will use extensively once you design, because not everyone has a budget for photography. Maybe you are working with a travel page, and then you are kind of you need photos for that. So stock these particular resources are a good way. These are good resources to use your images. Typography resources should be important, I feel, because uh, that is where what I have realized is people lack. What I mean is that like font hierarchy becomes very important, which you realize later, that the type of font that you use, the sizes of the hierarchy that you use. Once the design is complete, it kind of helps. It kind of it can be a deal breaker, or it can make or break your design. So these are just a few examples of resources. In terms of tools as such for a designer, I feel the best is to like start using Photoshop and Illustrator, because these are industry level softwares still used by almost everyone who works in this particular field, be it for like brand stuff, design stuff, etc. And one other is Figma, where now because like after using it for quite some time now, I have replaced a lot of my workflow of Illustrator and Photoshop onto Figma, because it's comparatively very user friendly and easy to use. So again, depends on the requirements. But I feel in terms of the tool knowledge that one should have, Photoshop, Illustrator, and Figma, I feel are a must for designers. And there are numerous tutorials available on YouTube to do that. I mean, and to get started, I feel the best way to get started is like how I did was um, like find something really cool on the internet, some photo manipulation if I have to learn Photoshop, and then find a tutorial for that, and then figure out whatever stuff is going into that. So if I go to if I just type in photo manipulation, Photoshop tutorials, I'll initially just go to images so that you know the type of edits that I'm talking about. So these are some really cool edits that one can make in Photoshop. Uh, and the best part about finding a tutorial related to this and making is that you'll get to know about a lot of tools that are available in Photoshop and how to use them. I learned about the basics of, say, like using a basic brush and to some advanced basics of masking, some color correction, things like basic lighting, things like how you can blend in 20 multiple images to something that looks like a singular image, and to kind of make it a part of one image. So how to do that is the best way is to actually do that, and maybe just follow a tutorial initially. Go to YouTube, um, type in randomly photo manipulation Photoshop tutorial or whatever you want to make basically, and then just start what the person is saying, and then slowly and slowly you'll realize you'll get a hang of the tool, you'll get to know about the things that there are in Photoshop or Illustrator. So rather than watching a video on what is all there in Photoshop, this is a much better way where you actually work on the tool, work in Photoshop or work in Illustrator or work in Figma to create something. And eventually, I feel that is the best way to do it, because when you are actively working on things, that's how you kind of learn it. Um, so so this is how you can so how I started was like I did all of these photo manipulation tutorials, and then started making some fan posters of stuff that I liked, maybe movies or shows that I liked, to just experiment with the tool and see what Photoshop, what all tools Photoshop has, what I can do with them. And some of them are really great, which you stumble upon once you uh, actually create stuff on it. So uh, this is one part of it. Other than that, in terms of, so all of this is for when you are kind of learning about designing or learning about the tools. So once you are, let's say, need to get a, so let's say you have learned all of these things, you are a pro at Photoshop, you're a pro at Illustrator, you know the basics of designing. The next part comes is how to kind of get a job in the particular in this particular field. For that, you need a portfolio, and to make a portfolio for a beginner, let's say with with 0 years of experience, the one of the ways is to recreate stuff. So let's say if you are interviewing or if you want to become a designer, you let's say let's stick to graphic design for now. If you want to work if you want to work as a designer for an agency, then maybe what you can do is take a particular brand and redesign their creatives, redesign their brand guidelines, what you think is not what you think uh, one might need to add to it. You can redesign their social media creatives, you can redesign their print collaterals, you can start redesigning their website banners. One of the major things that people do in UI portfolios is that they take a particular website and then redesign it based with their approach, and they kind of justify it and then have an explanation to it. Same thing you can apply to um, say any same thing when you apply to a graphic designing portfolio. Um, and the best way to do it is like my first portfolio was just my Instagram, honestly, where like I told you, all of these photo manipulation tutorials and some fan posters that I did. Apart from that, I had done a few posters, etc. in my college, a few banners in my college for my college fest and all. So that was what my portfolio consisted of. Uh, Now, what I realize is it would have been much better, like exponentially better, if I had some knowledge of storytelling. What I mean by that is I can kind of show it to you with an example. I'll just open my portfolio once and show it to you what I mean by uh, storytelling. So if I go to the work section, um, let's go to say maybe let's open next chapter is for which okay, so the ideal way to present a portfolio should be to tell what the brand is, then what was the challenge, and then how your designing capabilities helped solve that challenge. Uh, so if I look at this example, the project is to visual identity rebrand and course marketing. So this brand had certain courses, and we had to market that. We had to create videos, social media creatives or ad creatives for this particular brand. Um, and they so if you look at it, so the brief of the brand is that it's a funding ecosystem designed to inspire, educate, and connect female founders with savvy investors and strategic advisors. So you just give 1 or 2 lines about the brand that you worked for, then you tell them what the challenge is. You kind of write it down what the challenge is. Um, so like I have written it down, it's a very niche target audience with a very specific offering. The brand positioning needed to be such that it drives awareness and educate women about entrepreneurship and fundraising. Selling the product and course comes in secondary. The one approach can be like I give you a brief that, let's say, a dummy brief just to build your portfolio. Let's say that this is a brand called XYZ, which has some courses to offer. Now create something. So one approach is if I was in college, what I would have done is maybe just found out some social media brands or some brands that offer courses and then create stuff in a better way, create posts or create videos in a better way. But to create some things or to create designs in a better way, it really comes in handy once you start breaking down the problem. Uh, so if you look at we have kind of established the challenge. That is the important part. Once you establish the challenge, you'll figure out what your audience is, what your um, uh, offerings are, and how you can position yourself in the market. Who are the competitors and all. So the basic design strategy was that to use images in most of the social media posts, cutouts of women wherever possible, along with white spaces to not make it feel cluttered with textual content. So um, we established that that we'll kind of convey or give information or impart knowledge about entrepreneurship. So this part, once we decide that the brand will talk about or educate women about entrepreneurship in their marketing channels, then the challenge becomes that it might be very text heavy. It might become very text heavy. So we decided to kind of cut down on the text and use full blown images of women, and we used cutouts because that is something that's kind of a trend where and looks slightly different. So if you look at a few, I mean, there will come a few posts later on. So if you look at this particular style of imparting knowledge, or we how we the execution was a carousel. How we did that was to make it a continuous one. So if you look at the overall design, then there is a first image, then a continuous image that goes to the second slide, and then a continuous image then goes to the third slide. What happens is that this kind of keeps the user slightly more engaged rather than a boring text post or a boring image creative. So small things like that you need to add on to your design stuff. You need to figure out how you can make it different. Apart from continuity element, now we have seen with a lot of brands that they do. Apart from the continuity element, the second part is that these had image cutout. So overall, when I look at the design, this is slightly appealing because it doesn't use full screen images in squares. It doesn't use all text in squares. So it has something to it which makes it kind of pop out. So, and then it's important to say also develop content buckets. What I mean by content buckets is that so one of them was a success story where we focused on featuring successful female founders. Second was so the brand had a podcast series where we decided to kind of name it Meet Our Experts, where we would feature whoever comes onto that podcast and then maybe redirect them to that particular link. The third can be a founder showcase where it just, let's say, top 5 female founders in particular area. So once you break it down into smaller parts, so you kind of start making the content buckets like these. That is when it kind of becomes easier for you to design stuff. Like it's better than design without thinking. Uh, like you just so everything that looks good might not sell. So you need to always have an answer to why you are making something. That is where all of this storytelling and strategy aspect comes to it, which a lot of beginner designers lack. Like 90% of the initial portfolios that I have seen or people I have interviewed, it's just grunt work, which honestly won't get people far. I mean, it's better to kind of incorporate all of these strategy building, problem solving, storytelling aspects into your design from the beginning, and people really appreciate that. If you're a young designer and you already know about these stuff, so if you also notice one thing, the way of representing in this particular portfolio is using a bit of mockups here and there. So rather than just putting a video out there or putting a square creative out there, I have kind of used phone screens to make the overall page look slightly nicer. Um, this is another set of creatives that which is random visual representation. Whatever looked good. Then there were a few videos. Let me see if I can play it without this sound. So we did a few videos. So if you look at it, the color combination, like overall brand aesthetic remains the same. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but things like this need to be kept in mind. And again, a lot of beginner designers kind of just uh, ignore the brand guidelines as such just because sometimes it feels very limited. But I feel that brand guidelines gives you kind of a start, and it gives you a foundation to start on and then explore very new creative horizons, things you can do. Uh, so this was an ad campaign that we did. So if you realize here, um, the common line, this is more of a copywriting plus a designer thing where you work in a team, you work with a copywriter, you work on ideas together. Now the Beyond Bootstrapping Bootcamp was what it was basically a course on educating female entrepreneurs or educating people about how to raise funds. So we kind of had a background of the brand. So if you look at this particular set, that feeling when is a common line. So that becomes your campaign. That feeling when is a campaign where, and now you kind of make certain different iterations to it. That feeling when you nail your investor pitch, that feeling when you write yourself your first paycheck. It's all about striking that emotion. emotion also plays a very important part. That's where colors and all come in. That's why we use red here, so that red and yellow, because it's very striking. And another thing, if you notice, every image has yellow clothes, and these are edited images. So that is where your skills in Photoshop, tools like Photoshop comes in handy. Where once, I mean, so the job of a brand designer or a art director or a marketer is to think of the campaign. The job of a graphic designer is to create this, layout, text, use images, and create this particular post. But if you have the ability to think all of that together, then that is what kind of makes you stand out, and that is what will get you hired, honestly. So uh, so that apart from the thinking aspect, as a designer also, like, these are all stock images. So you choose random stock images from the internet, people, like happy people from the internet, and you edit all of that in yellow. This is an example, but an example of how you can bring in consistency into your design. So that is where the Photoshop knowledge comes in handy. Then you have some currency notes falling in all, so that you get that feeling of richness to it, or you add that emotion of money to it. So that's how you kind of slowly come up with a campaign, or um, come up with whatever you create, basically, and to evoke emotion in the people, and that's what matters. So these were a few landing pages then that we designed for the same course. And again, if you look at the representation, it's all mockups. It's not screen one, screen two, screen three, or it's not just rectangles. It's laptop, desktop, mobile, and tablet, so that people know. So what this conveys is, it automatically conveys that the design you created was responsive. It automatically conveys that you can easily browse through the website on every screen, and it easily conveys that your website is kind of optimized for all of these devices, rather than writing it down, that writing a long paragraph where you write, I designed XYZ landing page and made it responsive like this and this. So it's always better to show things visually. Uh, so that is one example of how you can bring in storytelling. Um, Another random example maybe that I can show you is, so it's more of a design example as such. So I'll just open this and see what I have. Just a second. So just if you kind of just go through it, or just scan the particular page, or scan this set of ads, you'll see that all of these look kind of similar to each other. That is how you kind of build a brand. That is how you design stuff. So this had Skyscanner has their own brand guidelines, which are pretty solid. They have their set of fonts, they have their elements to it, and uh, I mean, if you just kind of look at it from a bird's eye view, you'll realize that it's from the same brand, say exactly same color, exactly the same font, and the layout is roughly the same. The photos give a particular kind of a vibe. So that's how you, as a designer, can create good looking stuff and create stuff that is on brand as such. Uh, so this is one particular project that we did where, now this is very editing focused project. This is where a designer, a typical graphic designer comes in, where the idea is already done, everything is done. It's just you need to execute. This is where your Photoshop skills will come in handy. So I think this was a game where a game where the broad idea of the game was that five people maybe download it on their phone, and then the real world becomes your playground. That's the broad one line description of it. So to just promote that, what we did was that we created portals on these real life scenarios, and then edited them in such a way that they look slightly realistic. So does this open? I don't know. I don't think this photo opens, but if you look at it closely, then uh, the text written the text and the perspective of the wall is in line. If you look at every image, that is where your knowledge of Photoshop will come in handy. The ability to cut out these particular robots, make on the background and make it look like it's actually there. It's not a slap on, things like that. That is where um, the knowledge of Photoshop comes in. So maybe this one where you also need to have to make a reflection, which is focusing on attention to detail. It's slightly blurred, or maybe motion blurred, things like that. So the knowledge of tools and the knowledge of ability to strategize, think of ideas together is really, really important. Um, these are a few examples, and other than that, um, there is one more resource, a pretty nice resource. It's called the Brand Guidelines Archive, where you can find brand guidelines of lots of brands and lots of popular brands. So, if let's look at Coca-Cola, this is like a random example. If I'll open, um, and let me just download the PDF file. So the idea behind creating a brand, so I feel every designer should have like every designer should have the ability to follow a brand guideline, and you should aim for creating your own brand guidelines also for particular brands. So I'll just open this and then we can see how a brand guideline looks like. Uh, can you see Adobe? Can you see the PDF open, or can you just see uh, the URL web page open on it?
Only URL web page we can see.
Just reshare it. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah, okay. So just taking an example of the brand guidelines of Coca-Cola. So ideally, step one for being a graphic designer is that you need to have the ability to follow brand guidelines. There are brand guidelines for a reason, and if people don't follow that, then it really pisses off the brand. So if we just go and just have a quick look at what the brand guidelines is, also notice the type of how they have created stuff. So apart from the content, the way of writing or way of using the placement of images and text is also important. For example, this is a very plain background. This is can be a page separator. Once you print it, this is a very nice page separator. Uh, a brief introduction. So it is designed to bring global consistency to all of our current variants and platforms, as well as our future preparation. This document will look and sound like a guide to creating our products and our packaging, but really this is a guide to making our brand and our business even greater than ever. So apart from actually just doing the grunt work, there is always a reason as to why people have chosen certain things, and in the end it's all about bringing in consistency and increasing the value. So if you so greater consistency is a particular keyword, greater flexibility, greater opportunities, and refreshment. So greater moments. So all of these keywords is what makes Coke unique. So if you also look at their brands, or if you look at their ads, it will convey one of these messages. It might so if you look at like the fizz of the Coca-Cola is related to refreshment. There are certain ads around friendship and all, which are about greater moments, sharing your moments, so things like that. So every particular creative that comes from Coca-Cola as a brand will definitely impart one of these keywords or one of these emotions. Refreshments and greater moments are the two primary, I feel. So uh, now this talks about the design basic design principles, the business of design. So I think this is one of the important aspects in general. The principles behind our system aren't just important from an aesthetic point of view; they are there to drive our business. Intended to create maximum consistency and build equity through recognition, they influence everything we do, from how people navigate our products to how we innovate and remain relevant. Good design is good business. Um, so again, if you look at it, it's all about um, having that problem solving ability, or to look at design from a marketing angle. um, so they have their own like color and other of contents where it talks about the color palette, typeface, the ribbon element or the disc element that you see in the Coca-Cola creatives. They talk about the elements that their design system is built on, some core graphic elements. Um, these are their own elements like a fixed logo, a fixed red, white, and black color palette, the font, the tagline, original taste. Uh, it talks about the name, the history, and all. All of these things eventually help you create designs. It becomes easier to create designs once you think like this or think of the whys and have a reason for everything. So different because it's a global brand, so it has to have different language guidelines, packaging guidelines, uh, brand colors, then a few color options, label options for different flavors. It has all these guidelines for packaging placement, logo, minimum size, maximum size, scale of the logo, scale of the trademark in the logo, how to not use the logo. I mean, this becomes important once you are working with a startup or you're working with a small brand who have to have a fixed guideline. And when new people are coming to work, they really forget and kind of start doing their own stuff, which kind of breaks the consistency of the brand. So these are the brand colors with their particular ratios. The red is the maximum, then yellow, white and red. Sorry. Um, this is their color palette, which because of the range of products, they have explanation for that. Flavor colors as these. They have their typeface system, have their font weights. They have their font hierarchy like 190, 80 in multiples of 10, and they have other guidelines as to how to use this particular hierarchy. So guidelines for headlines, subheading, large text, smaller text, body text, guidelines for how to not use subtext and text. Uh, the red disc. I mean, they have a pretty extensive brand guideline, which makes you realize like if you go through it and if you study brand guidelines of various brands, you learn a lot about graphic design and brand design in general. This is the most dynamic icon, and the explanation is that the ribbon, which mirrors the original contour of our iconic bottle, has an illustrious history within our brand. It's a dynamic symbol of our delicious product. It usually links all our products together while creating waves around the world. So, waves around the world, if I look at the keyword, then it's an apt description for this particular design style. So if we reverse engineer it, while we are making a brand, so let's say we are in the office of Coca-Cola while it was not a name, and then someone says that we need to create waves around the world. Our product should do that. So that's how you kind of come up with this design rather than randomly coming up with a wave. It's a very simple design, but it has an explanation to it, so it makes sense, and then it has been used extensively. So that is what actually matters. It has all these guidelines for how to use that, how to not use that, the bottle, how to use that, and how not to use that, the different color variations. I mean, this is free to use. This website is like an open source website, so you can refer to it anytime that you want. Um, so I think that should be it for this particular one. I mean, there are a lot of things that I can go on and on, but to give you a broad idea of what the field is, how to learn. Basically, my aim was to tell you guys what all on the internet and from where, what are the good resources that I have collected that have helped me a lot build my career and eventually how to build a portfolio, what the important aspects of it are, not just simple grunt work designing. You have a color, you have a text, and you place it, and uh, you create a design. It's always about thinking it through. It's always about having a reason, having a reason to choose your design, choose whatever design language that you have chosen. So that is what matters, and that is eventually what will make you stand out. Because what I have realized is that as a simple graphic designer, you can only get as you might not get as far in your career as when you think of it as a marketer or think of it as a like don't limit yourself basically to just graphic design or to just one element of design. Idea is to um, design stuff for whatever thing that you can, because the medium doesn't matter. You want to design for apps, you should be able to do it if your fundamentals are clear. you want to design for websites, you want to design for print. There are a few small things here and there that comes into play when you're designing for different mediums, but the basic layouting fundamentals remain the same. So that is why it's kind of important to learn through existing good stuff on the internet, and that helps a lot basically. So another thing is maybe like that might be a separate session on how to incorporate animation or motion into your designs, which can automatically level up your design, but probably for some other time. I think this should be it from my end. If you have any questions as such, or I mean, you can feel free to ask now. Um,
That's great, Ayush. We have few questions from our audience. Okay, there is a question from Dilip. How do you stay updated on the latest technologies and design trends?
So for design trends, I feel YouTube is the best because like the pages that I shared, I mean, they also have regular videos on following design trends, how to keep up what's like every year end or beginning of the year, there are videos all over the internet about the current design trends, upcoming design trends. And for application, I mean, I think the best way to see it is through websites like Pinterest and Behance. I mean, I didn't talk about that, but these are probably the go-to websites for referencing and for inspiration. And these are always kind of up there with the current trends that are out there on the internet. So that is one. And as far as the tools are concerned, Adobe Suite is what the industry uses. And apart from that, like nowadays, all the AI tools that are coming up, there is a repository called Hugging Face, which has a lot of AI tools. I mean, again, the benefit of being an engineer is that you don't get overwhelmed while you have to install an AI package, while you have to kind of experiment with new tools, once you see that. So I didn't know that, but Photoshop and Illustrator have, or even After Effects has support for scripts. So you can write code in JavaScript and then incorporate that in Photoshop and Illustrator and all Adobe tools. So all of these things come in handy. I mean, this is what keeps you up to date.
Okay, we have one more question. What inspired you to pursue a career in graphic designing?
Okay, so I was interested in design from a very early age. So I think the major reason was that I used to draw a lot when I was a kid. So and eventually when I was doing my engineering, uh, I just kind of wanted to like the painting or drawing or sketching kind of gets away. Hobbies like these kind of gets away once you are into an engineering college or once you are pursuing your 11th or 12th. So like just randomly I kind of decided that let's start or let's think of yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Hi Sanjay. So designers are used to maintain consistency. That is one small aspect to it. Um, that is a small aspect of it. I mean, that's kind of a prerequisite that you should be able to maintain consistency. Like that's a no-brainer because it's like copying and pasting stuff. That's what AI is the best at right now. Um, and also like I told you earlier that apart from being just a graphic designer where you put some text images together and make a post or make something, make a design, apart rather than just doing that, the important part of it is the ability to think like a storyteller and a marketer, because that is what um, AI tools won't help you with that much. They're great at helping you with ideas. They're great at kind of initiating your thought process or kind of initiating your brain into thinking around certain stuff. But eventually to sell to, so when you're working for a brand, every brand is a business, right? They sell something. They're selling, it might be a product, it might be a service. So you should think of yourself as the person, like how you are adding quality to that particular product or a service, how your design is able to solve for that problem. There is a page called the Whole Truth Food. It's on Instagram. I don't know if you guys know about it, but that is one page on Instagram, that our one brand, which I have realized is very design focused. Their products are great. It's about clean food and all, but the way they have communicated it is really interesting. So all of these small brands that, I mean, you can study about these brands. You can maybe, just to build your portfolio, think of a brand and think how you can sell their product through your design. What different you can do, maybe it can be through video marketing, it can be through static ad campaigns, or it can be through anything. But the broad idea is, if you want to be in the field and if you want to beat that AI wave, it's not a wave. I mean, if you want to beat that AI tools, it's about bringing in your ideas rather than just see being consistent and like copying and pasting stuff. So that's why, like I said, storytelling, marketing, and again, if you are a designer who can video edit or who can animate, nothing like that. So Midjourney is really interesting because, like, we at one of the agencies that I work with, we did a few campaigns using Midjourney. So I'll tell you just one example. So there is this brand that I work with, which is a community for older adults, where they have, like, it's a community of 60 plus citizens who are 60 or above in their age, and it's a community where they organize events, trips, and all, just to keep them engaged. And their whole idea is to that like once you age in like especially in India, loneliness is a big problem. So that is what the community is all about. So during Christmas and New Year time, what we did was we generated images from Midjourney of old Indian people partying or doing stuff that younger people would do. Like, we generated images where they would dance in clubs or be a DJ or things like that. And then the campaign was, the real party starts after 60. Get inside access to the coolest club for older adults. So the ability to think of a campaign is what will make you stand out. Designing stuff, again, now it's a Midjourney prompt. Anyone can prompt it, but what you have to prompt, why you have to prompt it, that is what is important now. It's a Chrome-based browser because all the extensions and all of Chrome are there. And I mean, it's based on Chrome, but I feel it's in beta. There are a few. I have been using it since 4 or 5 months. I think 6 months now. But like, I don't know if it's still invite only, but it was invite only back then. I don't know about it today. But it's a pretty good one in terms of it's a pretty good one in terms of segregating your stuff or managing or just kind of organizing your stuff. But I still feel a few things, I mean, it's not lags, it's just buggy somehow. It has its own bugs. And that's the only problem, I guess. But otherwise, I've been using it for quite some time and I have been enjoying it.
We have one more question from Vipul Yadav. You are from computer science, right? Computer science background, right? So choosing graphic designing as a main career, you may face many major did you face?
So first was to how to get a job, like the most practical challenge, because I didn't sit in my campus placements because I was a CS grad, and not obviously a design company won't come to hire engineering students. Uh, so you had to do it yourself. That is where like I told you, that is where portfolio building helps a lot. Where I kind of lacked initially in the first, like fresh out of college. That's why the ability to, I mean, so like the challenge was portfolio building, and the solution is to kind of not right now know how you can kind of build a portfolio that makes you stand out from the crowd or from that crowd of freshers. A lot of design portfolios that I've seen from graduates of design colleges in India for freshers, even with people with say 2 or 3 years of experience, is just slapped on creatives. The first is they send a Google Drive. Don't ever do that. Bare minimum, make a Behance page. Uh, well, I mean, Behance is the easiest way to put your stuff online. If you can build a website, why not? I mean, my website is based on Wix, so it's pretty easy, templatized. It just you can make it visually appealing through your own designs. So have so like I also like in I think PDF also don't do a PDF portfolio. I did a PDF portfolio. My addition onto that was I made it a clickable portfolio, which kind of got the people got. So I had sections divided at the bottom, UI, branding, video editing, etc., and I made it clickable, so you could navigate within a PDF. That was my addition to it. So have something like that, maybe in your website, maybe in your portfolio, in your Behance link or whatever. Um, because portfolio is something that will get you the first interview. Once you're in the interview process, then it's your own knowledge, which you kind of gain through all these YouTube channels or whatever courses that you do, which then should not be as difficult as the first step. I think acceptance of a portfolio is the biggest challenge because people just put random social media, Instagram stuff or print brochures, etc., just as squares on their page, like say ads for brand X, and there would be 20 different creatives. But why did you make that creative? Why did you choose that particular color palette? What was the challenge? What problem were you solving? If you have the ability to add that, I mean, your portfolio will be at least will be into consideration almost 100% of the times. So uh, portfolio building was one. Second, I think it's mostly like I think the learning curve is the major challenge once you kind of start on your own. Apart from that, again, as I said, just being a graphic designer, you have to add on a few more skills to it because you want to earn well also. Advertising industry as such is known to be a low paying toxic industry, which which is true and normal again depends on the company. So you have to find out your way. I mean, you might work longer hours. I mean, but that's also true for say a software developer or whatever tech industry that you work with. So there are both aspects to it. But again, so that's what I said. I mean, um, building your skill set like a whole. Think of yourself as a full stack designer, I would say. So if you think of yourself as a full stack designer who can start from the basics of branding, build a brand guideline, build a brand, create all of their marketing collaterals, be it for social media, be it animation and all, then I think uh, you already have a foot in the door.
Okay, we have one more question. How do you collaborate with other teams such as marketing and or development?
So team collaboration mostly, I mean, again, depends. Sometimes it can be a really nice team to work with. Sometimes you just don't get along, which is true for uh, all the fields and all the teams that exist. Um, but to collab, so as a designer or in this particular field, what's best is to kind of like I have now brainstorming sessions with my team every week where it's just a very candid chat where we pick up a brand we pick up an industry and then we just browse through random popular marketing campaigns, think of a few ideas of what we can do, and then just kind of we don't finalize on anything, but we kind of get our brains rolling. After that, what I do as the creative leader of that particular team is that I kind of um, get that or just kind of brainstorm that idea with the content team or the marketing team. And sometimes, like in just normal talking to people, they might say something about the idea that clicks something in you. So it's so brainstorming for this particular field, or I don't know about any other honestly, but for me, brainstorming sessions have been like a very hit and trial thing in a good way. And I think that's the only way it should work because ideas can come from anywhere and from anyone. So collaborating with teams can also get tough. This is the good part, like good brainstorming sessions where you where everyone is aligned or your ideas are flowing. That is a good collaborative environment. There can be also places where your ideas won't align with the other person, which happens a lot, which has happened also with me. But then, so you have two options: either don't work with that client or don't work with that project, or just kind of understand that people have their own way of thinking. So they might come from a different place. They might know a few things about their brand which you might not know. Sometimes I mean, this is also very like an example which I have experienced, that sometimes what I think looks good and actually looks good, the team also approves. So my team or maybe we internally as a agency approve or like, but that just doesn't form. For example, if you want to run an ad, I have created one set that is approved by my internal team and it is really appealing. It looks really, really nice. And then there is a second set of ad which the client has suggested, but it looks very shitty. Now, they also are coming from a space where they have it's their brand, so they kind of know what works and what does not work. So sometimes the shitty designs work. In the end, they drive business. In the end, they drive sales. So it's really about finding that middle ground. You will have exciting projects, but at the same time, you will also have difficult projects to work with. It can never be like you have all exciting projects your way, but the idea is to find a balance between, you should aim to make 70-80% of your designing exciting and the 20-30% grunt work.
Okay. One last question. How do you handle feedbacks during a project?
So again, like I think a part of that question is kind of answered from what I said earlier. Sometimes you just have to do it. Sometimes you have to understand that the client is also coming from a space where he knows better than you. Uh, Apart from that, like I think designers can get very personal because don't attach yourself to a project until and unless it's your own. Reason being, like if you have like spent hours and hours, long nights working on a particular project, looks really really nice, but the client rejects it, and at least once in a career they will, more than once in a career they will. Something that you have spent hours and you think is like your best creation ever, but that will be rejected in a single email or a single call. That happens. But again, the thing is to have a balance. And before that, maybe you can try to have a conversation where as to you need to understand, um, just try to understand from the, like maybe get on a call. Maybe I get a feedback from someone that this and this is not working. So there are two types of feedbacks. One is a very vague feedback, other is a very constructive feedback. So uh, the idea is to look for constructive feedback. Sometimes people are like, "Iska color change kar do. Just change the color from orange to yellow." I mean, why? Uh, so if they have an explanation, well and good. If they don't, then it's just unnecessary feedback, but you have to do it what you have to do. So the idea is to have a reason for everything. If the feedback has 10 different points, just figure out yourself that why this is the case. Sometimes it's for better visibility, sometimes because you're printing stuff, there are print limitations. That's why the feedback. Like I initially didn't know about certain printing limitations. Got some feedback. I kind of realized that okay, so this is what happens in printing. That's how you need to make stuff. Your certain screens and all what you design for, um, there are different aspects to it, and the idea is to have a reason to every feedback line that you can. If you don't have it, just I mean, you have to do it.
Okay, one more question from Sanjay. Can I create AI images pretty well? Can I monetize it?
Can you monetize AI images? Please tell me how to monetize AI images. But like apart from that, so I feel from what I know, AI images are your own properties. So you can make posters out of it, or maybe make it's a design that you have now. Like it's a design that you have created literally in 2 minutes or a minute. and you can create hundreds of such designs, maybe make a series out of it, make a poster series, print it on t-shirts, print it on mugs, print it on whatever product that you can find, then sell it. That is one. I mean, that is one way of doing it. Other is to create ad campaigns, like I gave an specific, but think of campaigns that you can do with AI. Think of campaigns that, so what is a helpful thing of AI is that now this is from a very agency perspective, or a very uh, like working perspective in the industry, that the use of AI, that sometimes say a particular shot or a particular photo shoot or a particular product shot requires a lot of time, used to require a lot of time. For a product shoot, you need to hire a studio, you need to hire a photographer, you need to have some props, you need to block a full day to do that and get maybe 20 good images. But now with AI, for a product photo shoot, you can just prompt it. You can, in a full day, you can like give thousands of prompts to it and then choose 100 images out of it. So product photo shoots cost are saved. um, this is how it is helpful in the industry. But apart from like monitoring, I just know of these small stuff. Like, it's your own artwork and you can do whatever you want with it. Like, there are a few websites like Red Wolf and a few others that you upload your artwork, they print it on other stuff, and they also do all the shipping and all. It's just that they keep some 5%, 10% cut of your sale with themselves, and the rest is yours. But and you can explore certain options, explore options like these.
Okay, there are no more questions. So it was glad having session with you, Ayush. Thank you for sparing your valuable time with us. So definitely your words will help our students to become future graphic designers. Yeah, thank you. Before I wind it up, let's have a snap.
Yeah.
Samjai.
I request everyone to on their cameras.
Please, everyone, on your cameras. Let's have a photo. Thank you so much, Ayush. Eager to wait to connect with you soon again in future.
Sure, it was great having you all here. It was great talking to you. I mean, if you have any questions, any queries, then feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I mean, it's always open. Maybe, I mean, yeah, I mean, just feel free to reach out to me with your queries, and I'm glad to help.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so
Ayusha,
much. Yeah,
thank you for accepting our invitation and sharing your knowledge with our audience. It was really nice to have you.
yeah, it was really nice talking to you guys.
Thank you, Ayusha. Glad to see
Thank
you
you.
soon.
Yep, sure. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Wait.